So now that my asset's there, I'm going to select where it came from. These are browseware assets, so I'm going to click browseware. And then I have the option to select a preset, and you can see I've already got some presets here, or I can select my own optimization settings. Most likely for your organization, we're going to have a preset setup that you'll use. So something like PowerPoint, if you were going to use it there, or maybe it's for e-commerce. But let me walk you through some of the settings if it was on default. So the first option we have here is optimization. Optimization is specifically referring to the decimation of the asset, so reducing the polygon count. By default, we're going to try and optimize your asset to about 200,000 polys, but you can also set a specific limit if you're trying to make sure that it's going to work on a specific platform like Snapchat. So I could set a limit here of like 50,000 polygons. Draco compression is the type of compression that we strongly recommend you keep on if you're using this on the web. What Draco compression does is it reduces the amount of space that geometry data takes up in your file. So it won't actually look any different at all, but it will be a much, much smaller file. You might want to uncheck Draco compression if you're going to use this 3D model elsewhere. So if you were going to use it in Snapchat or you were going to drop it into a different sort of web viewer, you would most likely want to have Draco compression unchecked. Then I'm going to look over here, and my next section is texture compression. So for texture compression, we give you a few different options. The first is the resolution. And what this is saying is this is the maximum size that any one of your textures can be. 2K, 1K, 4K, 512, or the original size, and we'll just leave those alone. But it's not saying that all of your textures will be 2K. All it's saying is that the largest that any individual texture can be is 2K. I should also note that for all web viewers, the maximum texture resolution that they can view is 2K. So I'm going to leave this at 2K max, which we recommend as the default. Then I have the type of compression. We either have lossy compression or lossless compression. Lossy compression is a little misleading. It does lose some of the quality, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it's visible. It's more that if you were going to edit this asset again, you would not have the same resolution of a file to work with. So by default, we recommend you use lossy compression, but if for whatever reason you're not getting the results you want, then you can always use lossless, although you get much, much less compression in terms of file size. Aggression is how aggressively we're going to compress these textures. Usually a default of 4 or 5 works really well. Sometimes you might be really wanting to push that file size down, so you're going to crank it up to a 9 or a 10. And sometimes you might want to bring it down a little bit because you feel like the texture looks a little bit too compressed on your file. The next option we have is 3D model scaling. And so what this allows you to do is resize your asset if it's incorrect or you want to just adjust it. So maybe you came out of a program and you accidentally exported centimeters instead of meters. You have the ability to say, well, hey, this asset is 1 meter wide, and we'll go ahead and resize that asset to make sure that the X is 1 meter wide, and then we'll adjust the Y and the Z proportionally. In this case, I don't need that on. Now I have the ability to add a description for the asset. And for this, because I'm adding multiple assets, I'm not going to put a description there. Locations, and this is optional. And locations is maybe you're selling it in North America, maybe you're selling it in Europe. So you can use this, but again, it's totally optional. Now tags are super important, and we highly recommend that you're using tags, but again, it's an optional feature. So these are both jackets. And so I want to add this metadata. I'll call them jackets. And let's say it's part of my fall collection. So I want to add it to my fall collection. Maybe the year, it's for 2022. Maybe I want to say that they're both using Gore-Tex. So you get the idea. You can add lots of different metadata. This makes it super searchable. It's searchable via the API as well. So we highly recommend using metadata to make it easier to sort your assets, because as your asset number grows, this metadata will be super helpful. Attributes are a more specific characteristic of an asset. So something like SKU. So if there was a specific SKU for your assets, you might want to put that in this field. And maybe that SKU is shared across your PDM, PLM, everywhere. You want to make sure that you've got that SKU data, you put it there. You might also do something like price, $100, whatever that might be, but you can kind of see that this is how we use the attribute data. Next, I have the option to create, or if I'm an admin, I can click create and publish, which means that these assets will be live automatically. So I'm simply going to click create. And it's going to start uploading these assets. And if I come over here, I can see this progress bar start to move as the assets get uploaded. Generally speaking, it should take, for browseware assets, anywhere from 5 to 15 minutes. Clo assets, you might be looking probably closer to 10 to 15. And super large assets, you might be a little bit longer load time than that. And that's how you add an asset.